Once again, welcome to the program. I'm Anne Nwawadu. Let's begin in Britain, where British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has welcomed a number of world leaders to his residence at 10 Downing Street ahead of King Charles's coronation. Leaders from Australia, New Zealand and Qatar all held short bilateral meetings with Mr. Sunak, covering a range of topics from security to trade. Leaders from all over the world have travelled to London for Saturday's coronation. King Charles is head of state in Australia, New Zealand and 12 other Commonwealth realms outside the United Kingdom, although the role is largely ceremonial. The giant replica of St. Edward's crown has been installed at London's Marble Arch ahead of King Charles's coronation. A statement from the area said the 16-feet installation weighs 300 kilograms and features 36 different coloured glass stones. Locals and tourists were seen taking pictures and selfies of the crown replica as the coronation spirit grows in London.
We're delighted to welcome you today to Marble Arch and to see the giant replica installation of the St. Edward's crown. We've put the installation in to enable people to celebrate the coronation of King Charles III and to get up close and personal. Most people won't get that close to the coronation. The location here is fantastic because it's right on the edge of Hyde Park, through which hundreds of thousands of people will walk this way on Saturday to watch the live screening of the coronation on the giant screens in Hyde Park. We decided to put the crown installation here, I think probably back in February, and thought let's do something for the coronation. Marble Arch has got a really quite great legacy around royal history, and particularly coronation processions and funeral processions of royal family. Lots of the coronation processions, until this one in fact, have gone through Marble Arch and down Park Lane, so we thought it was important as a spot.
I'm so excited to this weekend, this coronation, and we have so beautiful things like that, and London is more beautiful this weekend, so I can't wait for next year.
I think it reminds of the Commonwealth as well, a lot of things, the jewelry and whatever. So for people who cannot see it, I think that's okay, because Saturday I'm sure not everybody can go there. I won't be going anywhere near. I've been there yesterday at Buckingham Palace, but that's about it. The look is quite nice.
Meanwhile, King Charles, who spent much of his life campaigning for sustainability and against throwaway economy, will have sustainable flowers for his coronation. Florist Shane Connolly said the king had wanted to make sure the displays were sustainable and no single use of plastic was used. Banquets and bunches of promises of primroses, wild grasses and cowslips are already on display in Chapter House at Westminster Abbey.
There are branches of beech which were cut from 2 trees planted by the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh at RHS Wisley. And I found that very touching that the King's parents planted those trees, and now they have cut a few branches of them for us to have in the Abbey for his coronation. They would have wanted no flowers at all if they weren't sustainable. They don't. Yeah, that was unquestionable, and that's what I am passionate about too. There's nothing that anyone could say is extravagant about wild grasses and cowslips and primroses and things like that. It's so ordinary and yet it's so special.
Londoners enjoyed a lunchtime street party as the city prepares for the coronation of King Charles. People waved British flags and were helped in their seats by dancers dressed in floral costumes at the party near London's Fleet Street. Around 50 people gathered to eat their lunch at an 80-foot table.
I think everybody's really excited. It's a historic moment. We're 72 hours away from the coronation, and people just want to come together as a community and celebrate that.
Came to celebrate. I thought it was a nice picnic and thought come with my friends, meet some new people. Saw the big 80-foot table and thought that'll be great fun, and there's lots of nice activities going on and there's hedge dancers and everything, so I thought it'd be fun.
So I'm just here to celebrate with the country the upcoming coronation of our new king, and I'm very excited to be here. I'm just here with a few friends of mine, and yeah, I'm just glad to be here.
Britain's Prince William and his wife Kate took a trip by tube to a London pub and told locals that preparations are still being nailed down for his father, King Charles III's coronation, the most significant royal event in a generation. William and Kate, the Prince and Princess of Wales, were greeted by crowds outside the Dog and the Duck pub in Soho, and that's the heart of London's nighttime economy, before heading inside to meet regulars, publicans and public owners. William, the heir, and Kate will follow King Charles's golden coach in a carriage procession through central London. For their trip to the top pub, the royals took a less glamorous mode of transport, riding on Elizabeth Ground underground train line named in honor of the late grandmother, Queen Elizabeth. Meanwhile, zookeepers at 2 British zoos have decorated their animal homes in bunting to get the coronation mood going. Footage from London and Windsor zoos shows animals from gorillas to meerkats also taking in the new decoration in the enclosures. Both zoos are part of the international conservation charity, the Zoological Society of London, whose work has been supported by the royal family since 1826. And still in the spirit of the coronation, nighttime drone videos showed London's Big Ben illuminated ahead of tomorrow's event. The historic London landmark cycled through various blues and reds, the colours of the United Kingdom's flag. King Charles will be crowned at Westminster Abbey in a ceremony full of pomp, pageantry, and of course solemn religious significance after he became monarch of the United Kingdom and 14 other realms on the death of his mother, Queen Elizabeth, in September. Well, as expected, there's been excitement as millions are expected to watch King Charles III's coronation either in person or on television this weekend. One of the people they'll be seeing perform live at that event is South Africa's Soprano, Pretty Yende. Yende will become the first African national to sing solo at the British coronation.
South African soprano Pretty Yende first met King Charles III when she was invited to sing at Windsor Castle by the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra last year. This Saturday, she will perform solo at his coronation. Months after singing at Windsor, a phone call interrupted rehearsals to ask the 38-year-old if she would perform at the coronation in London on May the 6th.
I remember when I actually got invited thinking, what do I sing for the king? It was like a very peculiar moment, a very, very, very extraordinary moment. So my heart is always willing to share the joy that it finds in the melodies that I sing. For me, it's a soul's business. So if it's a soul, I'm there. Whether you're a king or a princess or just a girl from the tip of Africa singing for the coronation of the king.
Millions are expected to watch the televised event, likely the biggest audience in Miss Yende's career so far. A dream come true for her.
Probably ministered sound for more than a couple of billions of people, but not at once. So this is a great opportunity for me to have my gifts shared with as many people as it was my dream when I first learned about this music and how it made me feel. So that sharing of that feeling is incredible for me, and I'm looking forward to that because it also just shows the power of music that is able to take any walks of life of us as human beings coming from all walks of life and be part of something so unique such as the coronation.
Pretty Yende grew up singing gospel music in church in her hometown of Piet Retief in eastern South Africa. She remembers musical evenings with her family while washing dishes after dinner. But it was during long walks to church with her asthmatic grandmother that Pretty, aged 5 at the time, perfected her pitch. In 2001, aged 16, she discovered opera in a television commercial and asked a school professor to teach her.
I did not even imagine that it could be humanly possible. It sounded out of anything I'd ever known. And so I said to him, "Can human beings do it?" And he said, "Of course, Pretty, human beings can do it." I said, "Okay, fine. My grandmother taught me to sing. So if somebody could teach me this, I could do it." So I said to him, no, I didn't even say to him, I demanded him to teach me. And that's how everything started. And thank God there was a gift inside already.
She went on to study opera at the University of Cape Town, and after her studies, that passion and hard work took her to Latvia and then to Italy, her base for several years. She has starred in theatres across the world and released a debut album in 2016. She is currently singing the title role in Masani's opera Mano, which runs until May the 13th. At the Coronation, Pretty Yende will perform Cigarette Fire, a piece written by composer Sarah Klaas for the occasion.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people will be waiting to hear that beautiful voice. In the meantime, royal fans from Britain and across the world have descended on London for the King's coronation, with some sleeping near Buckingham Palace since the start of the week to get a prime spot. Our London correspondent Teniola Oyetayo spoke to some of them and tourists who have travelled from far and wide for this occasion.
Eagerly awaiting the crowning of the new monarch, royal fans pitch their tents days ahead. Stationed a stone's throw from Buckingham Palace, they'll have the best view of the royal procession. Eager to set his tent up early, 34-year-old Bartley Graham discharged himself from hospital.
I'm here because it's a once-in-a-life opportunity which most of us will never ever see again.
And for this royal fan, it's her 37th year wedding anniversary, but she says celebrating the monarchy is a family tradition and there's nowhere else she'd rather be.
Obviously here for myself, to enjoy the occasion myself. The royals has always been something that we've grown up with as a family, and also obviously for my mum and dad who have passed, but obviously dad was always very big on the royals. My husband stood next to me. He's in the royal he was in the Royal Tank Regiment. Again, very poignant to the royal family, and yeah, so it's another very big reason for being here.
But it's not only Britons excited. Several people have travelled from afar for the occasion.
I've come all the way in from South Africa, so flown in specially for the coronation, so very excited to be here, and the weather's beautiful and hoping it's going to be like that on Saturday.
London is so beautiful, it looks fantastic, all of the monuments, and it's great to be here on such a historic occasion.
Very excited. We've come all the way from New Zealand, so it's going to be such a cool thing to watch. And we're part of the Commonwealth, so it's exciting to be here.
In anticipation of the influx of people, the Metropolitan Police has announced 29,000 police officers will be deployed in London across the Coronation Bank holiday weekend.
It's a rather significant, extremely significant operation. Over a period of about 7 days, about 29,000 officers. Millions, I would suggest, of people coming into London. Our focus is keeping people safe, so we have a multi-layered protective security approach.
As the eldest child of Queen Elizabeth II, King Charles has been preparing for this moment for his entire life. And now the stage is finally set. On May the 6th, thousands of Britons and tourists from around the world will be gathered here just to watch the lavish ceremony, Britain's first coronation in over 70 years. From London, Teniola Oyetayo for Channels Television News.
Well, our correspondent Teniola Oyetayo is back to give us more on this. Hello, Teniola, and thank you for joining us on The World today.
Hi, Anne. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too. I mean, I was in London last year for Queen Elizabeth's Jubilee, so I had an imagination. I mean, I saw the whole pomp and pageantry, everything happening. There's so much excitement everywhere. So I can only imagine how this one is at the moment. So give us an idea of what the mood is like in London right now.
Well, it really depends on where you go, but central London is brimming with excitement at the moment. Like you saw in that report, people have been camped out outside Buckingham Palace for days. The first person camped out there actually arrived on the 27th of April. That was last week. And it's not just Britons, camping out. We've got people from all over the world that have set up camp. We spoke to someone from the United States who came down, and she's also set out her tent for the royal procession. We were near Buckingham Palace yesterday doing some interviews, and we were literally swamped by tourists who just wanted to share how excited they were to be here for the coronation, which of course is the first in over 70 years. So it's really, kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity. But if you go on Twitter, though, the mid is mixed. Of course, you always have the critics, and they're saying it's ridiculous to host such a lavish ceremony, which is happening while the country is currently in the midst of a cost of living crisis. But generally, Anne, there's a mood of excitement across the country, which is very different, like you mentioned, from the funeral of the Queen last year. A lot of people were sad then, but people are really excited this time to be welcoming a new king who's finally taken the stage after so many years. There are over 3,000 street parties planned in different cities just to celebrate the crowning of the new monarch. So it's like a big countrywide party, Anne.
All right. But what's the security like there? I mean, in terms of police presence, just this week we saw a man was arrested just outside Buckingham Palace after throwing what was suspected to be shotgun cartridges into the palace grounds. What's security like?
Yeah, of course, for any operation such as this, security is incredibly tight at the moment. And that's incident earlier this week, although it did cause some concerns, officials have officially said it wasn't a terror attack, but more of a mental health illness situation. So they've assured people that, they are safe. But regardless, it's going to be a huge security operation, which has been tagged the Golden Orb, in line with the coronation. As part of this, over 29,000 police officers have been deployed over the bank holiday weekend to keep people safe. We'll also see dog handlers, police mounted on horses and helicopters as part of that effort to keep people safe. So overall, security is very tight. There are also some anti-monarchist protests planned and some by Stop Oil campaigners. So officers will be on ground to ensure those are peaceful and maintain law and order, and of course, keep people safe.
What do you think that people will be looking out for? Perhaps what will be the key moment of tomorrow's coronation? I mean, a lot of preparations are already ongoing before this day. What will be something people will be looking forward to tomorrow?
And I actually don't know where to start. I feel like there's a lot people are looking forward to tomorrow. For the people camping outside Buckingham Palace, it's the royal procession of the King and the Queen Consort from the palace to Westminster Abbey. And then, the famous wave from the palace balcony. I spoke to someone yesterday who said he really just wants to see what crown Camilla will wear. So everyone is different. But I guess also seeing the golden carriage and how much this will differ from the Queen's own coronation over 70 years ago. And then from the actual ceremony, the anointing and crowning of the King, and just items which date back hundreds of years, and just celebrating British culture in general. For some, though, it might just be to catch a glimpse of how Prince Harry interacts with the rest of his family, following his tell-all docuseries with his wife Meghan and their relationship with the family. But it's definitely going to be an exciting day of parades, and everyone definitely has something to look forward to.
All right. Can you give us an idea of other world leaders there? We know that some of the leaders from the 12 realms are there already arriving for that event. We also know that President Muhammadu Buhari is in London. Who else do you know is around, especially visiting dignitaries and royals from around the world?
Yes, as well as President Buhari, a number of other world leaders are here too. Earlier today, the King held a meeting with the leaders of New Zealand and Australia. In total, around 100 heads of state will attend the coronation tomorrow, already confirmed. We've seen the Rwandan President, Paul Kagame, the French President, Emmanuel Macron, and the German President, as well as the Canadian Prime Minister. We do know that the US President will not be in attendance. Instead, the US First Lady, Joe Biden, will be attending in place of him. This evening, the King will also hold a reception for world leaders with guests. So we'll have a full list of those in attendance by this evening.
All right. Thank you very much, London correspondent Teniola Oyetayo. Thanks a lot. And we look forward to hearing a lot more interesting things from you tomorrow.
All right, and thanks.
After the break, scuffle breaks out during a gathering of Black Sea nations in the Turkish capital after a Ukrainian flag was raised during a Russian representative's speech. We'll bring you the details. Please stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching The World Today on Channels Television. The World Health Organization, the WHO, has declared that COVID-19 no longer represents a global health emergency. The statement represents a major step towards ending the pandemic when it comes amid 3 years after the first declared of highest level of alert over the virus. Officials are saying the virus death rate had dropped from a peak of more than 100,000 people per week in January 2021 to just over 3,500 on the 24th of April. The head of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, says that at least 7 million people died during the pandemic. He adds that the true figure was likely closer to 20 million deaths, nearly 3 times the official estimate, and that he warned the virus remained a significant threat. A man suspected of killing at least 8 people in Serbia has been arrested following a massive manhunt, leaving the country reeling from its second mass shooting in just 2 days. Serbian police identified the suspect as a 21-year-old male named Uroš B. The incident happened in a village in Dobona, about 60 kilometers southeast of the Serbian capital, Belgrade. More than 600 heavily armed police established a checkpoint. They searched incoming traffic inside the Serbian village as armored police SUVs and black vans all circled the area. The shooting is coming less than 48 hours after a 13-year-old boy shot dead 9 people and injured 7 of them at a school before turning himself in. This week, police forces across Europe executed one of the largest ever coordinated hits against Italian organized crime. Authorities in Italy, Greece, Germany, France, and other countries arrested more than 100 people affiliated with the 'Ndrangheta, which is a powerful criminal syndicate responsible for most of the drug trade in Europe. The suspects are accused of money laundering, criminal tax evasion, fraud, and smuggling of drugs, mafia-type criminal association, possession, and trafficking of weapons. Let's find out more from DW correspondent Andrea Nepori in Berlin. She joins me now. Hello, Andrea. Thank you for joining us. Tell us more about the operation as it keeps unfolding.
Yeah, it was a large and complex operation. The raids we've seen this week are the result of 3 years of investigations spanning Italy, Germany, Portugal, Belgium, and even Panama and Brazil, for a total of 10 countries. Authorities said that more than 2,700 officers were deployed in Europe for the raids, and more than 130 people were taken into custody. The raids targeted different families or clans, as they're called, of the 'Ndrangheta organization. That's a crime syndicate originating from the Calabria region in southern Italy. The 'Ndrangheta is one of the most powerful crime organizations in the world. They control most of the cocaine trafficking in Europe and make money through other illegal activities as well, such as weapon smuggling, extortion, and so on. This week, European police forces seized businesses that were involved in money laundering for 'Ndrangheta through real estate, restaurants, hotels, car wash companies, even an ice cream parlor here in Siegen in Germany. This really sounds like it's coming out of a movie. It was believed to be a strategic meeting hub for associates involved in drug trafficking and even killings.
You might just be hearing about this Ndrangheta group for the first time, yet it's still one of the most powerful crime organizations in Italy, as you've just said. Help us understand more about how this group actually operates.
Yeah, when we talk about Italian organized crime, most people probably still think of Cosa Nostra. That's the picturesque Sicilian-American mafia depicted in many American movies like the Godfather saga, right? That's a thing of the past. The power shifted, and other organizations have taken over in the past 30 years. They have names that, for us Italians, unfortunately sound pretty familiar. One is the Camorra in Campania, that's the Naples region, and indeed, as we said, 'Ndrangheta, which is based in Calabria. Now, if you want to put that on a map, if you think of Italy as a boot, Calabria would be the front tip of the shoe. Authorities were almost surprised, actually, to discover that this criminal empire could be traced back to a few families from the area of San Luca. That's a tiny rural village in the Calabrian mountains, suggesting that the very local and family-based structure of this organization. Historically, 'Ndrangheta dates back more than a century, though, and it used to make money mostly through kidnappings and extortion, but in the last 4 decades, it was able to forge strong ties with drug producers in Latin America and expand its operations all over the world. And over time, they actually seized control of the most lucrative cocaine routes from South America to Europe.
And we've also seen that this organization expanded well beyond the Italian and European borders. So what's the current reach of this Ndrangheta organization on a global level?
Well, to give you an idea of the scale first, according to some older estimates, the San Luca families control a business worth more than 45 billion euros, even 50 billion euros according to some other estimates. Well, as a reference, that would be the middle of the Fortune 100 list if that were a company. But just the drugs seized since 2019 during these investigations are believed to be worth more than 2.5 billion euros. Authorities even believe that many other shipments actually couldn't be stopped. That's all drugs that flood the European market, yes, but also they get shipped further to other countries. Also, this week we've seen arrests in 8 EU countries and even then in Panama and Brazil, as we said. And there, the Calabrians were selling weapons sourced in Pakistan to a paramilitary militia. Authorities believe that the 'Ndrangheta has associates and connection in most of South and Central America, even with the Mexican drug cartels. And to move money, they used Chinese brokers who control digital money transfer. So West Africa actually also plays an important role, with Ivory Coast in particular being one of the most important hubs through which 'Ndrangheta routes some of its cocaine shipments. As you can see, that's a truly global empire that hopefully, that's definitely our hope, especially as an Italian, I might say, that's definitely my hope that with this week's operation, this empire has at least started to crumble down.
One's hope. Thank you very much. Our correspondent in DW, Andrea Nepori from Berlin, thanks a lot for your time and your contribution on the world today. Let's head to Sudan now, where the army is prepared to cease fighting immediately should the rival paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, the RSF, lay down arms first. And that's according to Sudan's ambassador to Ethiopia, who was speaking during a press conference in Addis Ababa. Despite multiple ceasefire declarations, the two sides appear to be battling for control of territory in the capital Khartoum ahead of proposed talks, though the leaders of both factions have shown very little public willingness to negotiate after more than 2 weeks of fighting. On Thursday this week, the Sudanese army sought to dislodge the RSF from its positions near the capital Khartoum in intense battles. Sudan's special envoy to Ethiopia, Dafar Allah, also told diplomats in Addis Ababa that it was up to the paramilitary group to take the first step towards peace.
I came to Addis to meet the chairman of the African Union, also to meet His Excellency Prime Minister of Ethiopia and the President of the African Union. I have met them all and I shared with them our views and opinions. I assured them that shortly the government of Sudan is going to put an end to this rebellion, and I assured them that we are keen for the stability, the peace in the region. We are willing to stop the fighting immediately after we put an end to that fighting, because the government of Sudan did not start that fighting. The other party, the other rebellion, I would say, are still raising up arms, fighting, and they didn't show any consent to yield or to give up. And we have announced more than one time that there is still a chance to pardon whoever is ready to put down arms.
One of the first flights of Humanitarian Aid for Sudan left Doha in Qatar today as the country prepares to provide about 40 tons of food and medical relief to the embattled country. The boxes were loaded onto an Air Force cargo plane at a military base in Qatar. The return flight from Port Sudan is expected to evacuate around 150 Sudanese nationals, along with citizens from various countries, according to Qatar's foreign ministry officials. Heavy gunfire echoed around Khartoum again this morning. There have been no sign of any let-up in fighting, as civilians trapped in the Sudanese capital say their plight has been ignored by both the army and the RSF. Well, concerns are already growing for more than 30,000 people who have fled the fighting in Sudan, finding shelter across the country's southern border with South Sudan. The conflict has forced about 100,000 to flee to neighboring countries, according to the UN, and has hindered aid deliveries there. The World Food Programme officials warns that there are already 7.4 million people in South Sudan needing food aid.
This crisis couldn't come at a worse time. You know, in South Sudan, we're entering the annual lean season and the rainy season when, access is difficult. We already have 7.4 million people in need of food assistance in South Sudan. We are unable to reach them all because of the resourcing challenges. We've had to cut our programs because of severe funding constraints. And now again, we're having to reprioritize between hungry people, these new arrivals who are extremely vulnerable.
U.S. President Joe Biden has issued an executive order authorizing sanctions against Sudan, saying the fighting must end. Mr. Biden called the violence a tragedy and a betrayal of the Sudanese people. He said the violence in Sudan is an unusual and extraordinary threat to national security and foreign policy of the United States. The latest ceasefire has failed to hold, with heavy fighting continuing in the capital Khartoum, as well as the adjoining cities of Udmurman and Bahri. The World Food Programme has estimated that more than $13 million worth of food aid destined for Sudan has been looted since the fighting broke out last month. Talking about the conflict in Sudan between the RSF and the military, it is likely to be protracted because both sides believe they can prevail militarily. That's according to U.S. Director of National Intelligence, Avril Haines. She is concerned about the conflict and saying that it might assume wider dimensions. On a lighter note, and finally on the program, visitors were delighted at the sight of 6 lively little lion cubs at a zoo in Pakistan, born of 2 separate lionesses. Mohammed Asif, a caretaker at the Safari Zoo, said the children are especially very excited to see these cubs. According to the zoo's deputy director, Ghulam Rasool, the birth of the cubs, now aged between 2 and 3.5 months, has brought the number of lions present in the zoo to 40, and added that of the 242 acres the zoo covers, 30 acres are given to the lions, who are able to roam freely.
Safari Zoo Lahore is famous for the lions. We have around 40 big cats at present, and the specialty of the Safari Zoo Lahore is its area entry cover. Safari Zoo Lahore has a huge area of 242 acres, and at present we have around 9,000 mature trees, and we give around an area of 30 acres for the lions to roam freely in their natural habitat.
Very cute note to end the World's Day. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Nwawado. Have a wonderful weekend and please stay safe.